like school, but now he actually gets upset if he's not well and can't go to school. And so,
was that anything to do? Was that to do with the parent house? Do you think, or the way they manage?
I think so, definitely. Even as in the courses that I've been on, and he's seen that I'm able to support him.
Have a look at your things.
Teachers and parents come to blows most often over behaviour issues, and that includes the parents' behaviour.
I was a teacher's worst nightmare, I think, from at primary school where my children went. Any problems that they had, it was never their fault. The teachers would ring me up, I'd go down and create, and just thought my children were angels. And then I realised, after coming to the Marlborough, I realised that they weren't the angels I thought they were, and that the best way was to support the teachers rather than work against them.
The NHS Marlborough Family Education Centre in London works with children who are at risk of being permanently excluded. Here, parents are seen as the solution, not the problem. 4 mornings a week, children from different London schools attend the centre with their parents. First they do schoolwork, and then parents and children discuss together each pupil's behaviour before they return to school in the afternoon. All the children have individual behaviour targets. Jack is telling the group his behaviour scores from the day before.
Being set 4, as I was told by teacher 4. Today I think I've achieved 4, no comments.
Hey, well done Jack.
The centre is run by Brenda McHugh and Neil Dawson, who developed this approach.
What changes have you done with Jack?
I've got a lot tougher with him, and I do now stick to the consequences. I wouldn't say I did always. And the keep you in, which is the one you hate the most, isn't it?
Yeah.
No football. Definitely me being tougher with him, me changing.
Okay.
Because, I mean, if I would just sort of just brush it aside and forget about it and just let him carry on, not really realising that I wasn't helping him at all by letting him get away with everything.
I think that in talking to both parents and teachers, the word that comes to mind is frustration. That parents, for example, feel incredibly frustrated that, in their words, they are kept out of what's happening in the classroom, and that it isn't until things have got really critical that they then get a very long rap sheet about what their child has done. From a teacher's perspective, I think the frustration is that you are trying to send messages home quite often about how serious things are, and you see no change in the child in the classroom, that parents feel as if they're elusive and that they are not taking seriously your concerns, and sometimes as a teacher you feel heavily criticised.
Okay, that's very clear, thank you.
At the end of each day, parents follow through with consequences for good or bad behaviour.
Before, he just seemed to wear me down, and I gave in to him all the time, every time. Anything for a quiet life, but now I do make him have consequences, and I do, if I say it, I stick to it.
We get rid of that argument that quite often happens between home and school, where home says, well, I'm not punishing him, that's something that happened in school, that's not my job. I don't ask school to punish when he doesn't make his bed in the morning, so why should I punish if he's not good with his teacher? It puts an end to that, because these are jointly constructed targets which are there to help the child change his pattern or her pattern. And so the deal is that when the child comes home, if they've scored well, they get some kind of appreciation from the family. If the pattern has re-emerged during the day, there needs to be some consequence to that.
What we're trying to do is help parents to say, well, if you're going to create consequences, they've got to be achievable, got to be realistic, and close enough to the event as well. So for children, you want, if something's happened, you want the response to be pretty quick.
You say it in the group here, you're going to do this. You've got to carry it through. You can't not do it, because you've got to come in the next day and say, oh, I've never done that. So you've got to carry it through. Once I've said it, he knows now that I mean it, because I've got to come in here the next day.
Many people would say to us, why have all these families together? Why can't you just work with one family? But as you're saying, they're isolated. They don't have much experience of seeing what works in other families, and by bringing everybody together, they grow quite a resource between them for helping not only their own children, but each other's children, and that speeds up the process.
The most important thing coming to the Marlborough was the support of the other parents, to know that you're not on your own, you're not the only one whose kids are going through it, and things what I were doing to try and make them change. Like other parents would say, well, maybe if you try this, and you just sort of advise each other, I've tried this with my child and that works, maybe you can try it, and you know, if it don't work, we'll try something else. And that was, you know, it's just being with people who understand you and not judging you.
Because you keep interrupting them.
Marlborough staff also run groups in schools, where teachers work side by side with parents. And Janice is now one of those helping to run a family group.
Once a group of parents who may have felt on the cusp of school and sometimes hostile to school become at the heart of school, helping run these groups, the whole dynamic changes within the school. And so head teachers have said that where there used to be a number of parents who were part of a tension between the staff and the playground activities and parents at the school gates, once those parents have become invited in and part of family group and have started to help other children become far more involved in the life of the school, the whole atmosphere of the school has changed.
Parent-teacher relationships change at secondary school. As a parent of 2 teenagers, Fiona understands the problems.
Primary schools are small, parents come every day to bring their children and they only have one teacher to deal with, whereas at secondary level, schools are much bigger, parents don't come and pick them up, and they've got different teachers for different subjects. So that can be a bit of a nightmare, a sort of maze for parents to have to work their way around if they want to find out what's going on and find out how they can support their children. George Green's School in Tower Hamlets is a pretty big secondary school. It's got 1,300 pupils, and it is very much at the heart of its community because it's got a small catchment area and it's on the Isle of Dogs, and most of the people who go to the school live on the Isle of Dogs. But it has lots of issues with social problems, antisocial behaviour, pupil underachievement, and they're trying very hard to use their relationship with parents to address some of those issues, in spite of the fact that they're big, and you know, relationships aren't automatically made by the fact that parents come to the school.
At George Green's School, Angela Rennie-Smith is a parent coordinator and learning mentor in charge of raising attainment of 23 Afro-Caribbean and mixed-race students. She's organised their parents to run homework clubs in their own homes and keeps in close contact with them about the students' achievements and problems, using every means of communication.
What the kids tend to do is you leave a message on the answer phone for the parent, either saying they've done something good or something bad, but they tend to leave the ones where they've done something good, but they'll race home and delete the message before mum and dad gets home. See, so that's why I've got text, I send postcards to work, I'll do emails, work emails, so every avenue's covered. So when I've got something to say, I tend to do it on all 5 of them, so one of them must at least get through. So he's just found out that I've got his mum's mobile number, and I've given it to the school as well. So he's not entirely happy.
And I can go to any Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday RE revision. Saturday.
The aim is to extend this way of working with parents throughout the school, creating networks of parents within form groups.
But do you think the fact that you're not a teacher helps in this role? If so, why?
Yeah, I do, because they don't see me as a threat. They don't see me as being authoritarian. They don't see me in the same light as the teachers. I'm someone that they come to and they tell things like what's happened at home, what their best friend said, what their girlfriend's doing, that they don't like this teacher or it's this subject. Whereas in lessons with the teacher, it's just don't like it. You know what I mean?
So that's the kids. Now what about the parents then? How do you think it helps with them, the fact that you're not a teacher?
It does, because then what they tend to do is, when I did the introduction to the parents, I sort of said that I've got a child of my own and these are the same kind of worries that I would have, although I work in this school, so I can see both sides of it.
A lot of the parents in a school like this will have had a negative experience themselves
Yeah,
at school and don't feel they've got the confidence to support their children. I mean, do you think that this empowers them to give them the confidence to help with the work?
It does, yeah. I mean, because when I phone up, if we're talking about a specific piece of work, I'll say, well, they've got to do this or they've got to do history. They'll say, well, okay, we'll try going to the library on this day, or we'll do this. And it just brings them in, you know, they don't feel that they're left out in the cold and, oh gosh, I haven't done algebra since. They have a go.
Do you mind the fact that Angela can phone your mum or text her or even send her an email to let her know what you're supposed to be doing when maybe you don't want to be doing it?
I don't like it, but I don't mind it because I know it's helping me out in the long run, so it's good for me, so I don't really mind it.
And what's the difference between before, when you didn't have Angela, and now?
Well, before I had no one to talk to before, and I just, I don't know, sometimes I get angry, they just used to come out or just wouldn't help. But now I have someone to talk to, like, confidential, so she helps a lot.
So that's a big difference, isn't it, having somebody in the school who seems like a friend rather than a teacher?
Than a teacher, yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference to your mum as well?
Yeah, because my mum knows that she's actually trying to help me, so my mum likes it, and my mum likes her.
But does she feel that the teachers are more difficult to talk to?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, because obviously my mum doesn't like hearing negative stuff or one-sided views. Angie just told my mum straight what happened.
And do you think if it weren't for Angela you would be looking at going into college?
No, I don't think I would be. I don't think I'll be out in school.
You think you'd have been excluded by now?
It's helped me out.
So it's been a real success for you, hasn't it?
As well as parent coordinators, George Greens employs parents as midday supervisors, known as redcoats, has a parents' council, and even organises parent outings to places like Cambridge University to raise their aspirations. But the aim is not only to reach out to parents, but the wider community.
But do you find that some of your teachers feel that it's too much for them to take on some of these wider social problems that exist in the community?
Well, what we're trying to do is, as I say, because we're a full-service extended school, we also have a social worker, we have a policeman, we have a CAMS worker, we have various other voluntary agencies, we have a school counsellor, we have all sorts of people that work with us to support teachers so that teachers can teach and social workers can social work, really. And of course, if you've got the parent on board, then you can work even more closely with them. Kids are at school probably more than they are at home, you know, during term time. So we do know a lot about them and we can spot things and we can help. And, you know, we are at the hub of the community and I see that as where we're moving towards.
The more you look at this subject, it's actually very difficult to find blanket solutions to the question of working with parents because it depends on what type of parents you've got, what sort of school you've got, what sort of community it is, and what the issues are. What's come through very clearly here, and we've seen in other schools as well, is that it works better when a third party comes in who preferably isn't a member of the teaching staff, not just because teachers themselves are quite intimidating to some parents, but also because teachers are very, very busy focusing on their job, which is to prepare lessons, to mark homework and to think about their pupils' progress. And they really haven't got time to deal with individual parents' issues and problems, whereas in this school, as in Gospel Oak, they have people who are dedicated to doing that. And that's what is making the relationship more harmonious.